They built more pyramids than Egypt, ruled the Nile as Black Pharaohs for a century, and saw their legacy erased so completely that Napoleon's men dynamited their statues, just to prove Africans couldn't have built them. Deep in the heart of Nubia, around 750 BC, the kingdom of Kush glittered like a furnace stoked by ambition. Gold mines shimmered under the relentless sun, veins of ore so rich they seemed to bleed wealth into the earth. Iron forges roared, their heat outmatching even Egypt's blazing deserts, crafting blades and tools sharper than any seen on the Nile. This was no mere shadow of Egypt, this was a civilization that rivaled it, surpassed it, built on the backs of a people whose ingenuity echoed in every hammer strike on molten metal. The air buzzed with the rhythm of chisels carving granite, shaping temples and pyramids that pierced the sky. Kush wasn't just surviving, it was thriving, its people adorned with gold piercings that caught the light like stars against their dark skin. But ambition has a way of drawing eyes. To the north, Egypt faltered, its pharaohs weakened by infighting and decay. Enter Pi, the Kushite king whose name would soon make empires tremble. He wasn't content to watch Egypt crumble from afar. His Nubian archers, their bows strung tight as their resolve, marched north with a precision that turned the Nile Delta into a slaughterhouse. Egyptian charioteers, their bronze armor gleaming, charged with arrogance, only to be cut down by volleys of arrows that darkened the sky. The clash was brutal, hooves thundered, wheels splintered, and blood soaked the reeds along the riverbank. Pi didn't just fight, he dominated, his warriors moving like a storm across the floodplains, leaving Egypt's might in ruins. The crescendo came in Memphis, Egypt's ancient capital. Pi's coronation wasn't just a ceremony, it was a humiliation. Egyptian nobles, once lords of the Nile, knelt before him, their faces pressed to the muddy riverbank. He forced them to lick the Nile's waters, a bitter taste of their defeat, their lips trembling as they submitted to a king they dismissed as a southern savage. The city's air hung heavy with incense and the sharp tang of surrender. Pi, draped in gold, stood atop the steps of the temple, his silhouette framed by torchlight, a black pharaoh claiming Egypt's throne. This was Kush's peak, a moment when the Nile itself seemed to bow to their will. But glory is fleeting. The winds shifted, and with them came the Assyrians, their armies like locusts stripping the land. They swept through Kush's northern territories, their iron swords clashing against Nubian spears. Temples crumbled under siege, and the forges of Meroe, once alive with the clang of hammers, fell silent. An artisan, his hands calloused from carving granite, stood amid the ruins and whispered, "They burn our history, but our blood still flows in this river." His words carried the weight of a civilization watching its legacy turn to ash. The forges cooled, but the ambition remained, smoldering beneath the surface, waiting for a spark that never came. The greatest insult wasn't the destruction, it was what they replaced it with. For centuries, Kush's story was buried, not just by invaders but by those who came later, determined to rewrite history. Napoleon's men, trudging through the Sudan in the late 1790s, stood before Kush's towering pyramids, steeper than Egypt's, their foundations twice as tall, and refused to believe Africans could have built them. One of his scientists, scribbling in a 1799 journal, chiseled, "Made in Egypt," onto a Kushite sphinx, its broad Nubian features defaced with white plaster to erase its African identity. The sound of dynamite blasts echoed across Jebel Barkal, sacred to Kush, as statues of Pharaoh Taharqa, his gold piercings gleaming in defiance, were reduced to rubble. They couldn't stand the truth, that a black civilization had outbuilt, outfought, and outlasted Egypt's finest. Compare the two, Kush's pyramids, sharp and soaring, dwarfed Egypt's in ambition, their angles cutting the sky like blades. Egypt's obelisks? Mere echoes of Kush's 40-ton granite needles, hauled from quarries and erected with a precision that left engineers in awe. Yet history's pen favored Egypt, dismissing Kush as a footnote. The erasure wasn't just physical, it was deliberate. Museums, their vaults stuffed with looted artifacts, hid Kushite relics in basements for 200 years, labeling them Egyptian or unknown. In the 1950s, a scholar in Harvard's archives, surrounded by mislabeled statues and faded papyri, broke down in tears. "We erased a civilization, brick by brick," he said, his voice cracking under the weight of truth. But the Nile keeps its secrets. In 2003, UNESCO divers plunged into the river's depths, salvaging flooded Kushite sites before dams swallowed them forever. They found temples carved with scenes of Queen Amenarina's, a warrior queen who stared down Rome itself. When Augustus sent his legions to conquer Nubia, Amenarina's led her armies, one eye lost to a Roman blade, and drove them back. Her statue, its gold piercings glinting in the torchlight, stood as a testament to Kush's defiance. Unlike Egypt's rigid hierarchy, where pharaohs ruled as gods, Kush's society breathed equality. Men and women shared power, their queens commanding armies and their artisans crafting wonders. This was no primitive tribe, this was a civilization that balanced strength and fairness in ways Egypt never could. Yet even sacred ground wasn't safe. In the 19th century, looters descended on Jebel Barkal, prying gold from temple walls. Locals whispered of the curse of Jebel Barkal, grave robbers, weighed down by stolen treasure, sinking into Nile quicksand, their screams swallowed by the river's churn. The land itself seemed to guard Kush's legacy, punishing those who dared defile it. But the looters kept coming, and the dynamite kept blasting, until the world nearly forgot the Black Pharaohs who once ruled the Nile. Today, archaeologists sift through the rubble, piecing together what was lost. They uncover temples dynamited into silence, their stones still whispering of a time when Kush's forges burned brighter than Egypt's sun. The gold piercings of Taharqa's statues, now cracked and scattered, catch the light once more. The hammering chisels are gone, replaced by the quiet scrape of brushes against stone, as modern hands work to restore what was stolen. The Nile still flows, its waters carrying the blood of a civilization that refused to be erased. And as the truth rises from the sand, one question lingers: what else have we buried, and what will it take to bring it back?